5, 4.
Hi, everyone. Well, you can't see my arm over there.
Yeah.
Bill Fairman here, Carolina Capital Management. I'm here with Wendy Sweet
Hello.
and Jonathan Davis.
Hey.
So we are live, by the way.
And we're so excited. We have our first live guest too, right?
Yeah, let me try this real quick. CarolinaHardMoney.com.
.com.
You gotta have
It's supposed to there. It appears.
All right. So
our wizard is
during
working.
this live broadcast, we have our friend Jerome Myers that we're going to be interviewing. He is really involved in multifamily, but what's most important, he follows really our
culture
way of doing things too.
Yeah.
Because it's workforce housing.
Yeah.
We try to stay in affordable housing in our lending, and he's in affordable housing and multifamily.
Right.
But you're able to ask questions in the chat, and then we'll in turn ask him.
Yeah. So if you'll just post them,
right?
Yeah, we'll be able to see those. So I met Jerome on a cruise. I always take one for the team at least twice a year, and I go on a financial friends cruise. And it's hard work. We speak and work really hard, and sometimes we get to have a good time. And I actually
sometimes you get to have a good time.
I actually sat in a pool with Jerome for about an hour. I guess we were in there. We were pruning up and we were talking business. It was good stuff. But and it was then that I said, "Hey, Jerome, I'd love to have you on our podcast so we can just hear about what you do and what your goals are and how you're changing the commercial world," right?
Absolutely.
Right. So
Jerome, welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me, guys. This is super exciting. I haven't been live before, so this is just like super cool. Hopefully I don't mess it up.
It's so if you mess up, it's okay. Then everybody knows you're for real. But I have to know. Okay, I took the red pill.
I did.
So tell me what that means.
So
Matrix?
No.
Anybody who's a fan of the Matrix is
okay.
familiar with this point. But I mean, for me, it really comes back to 2010 when I was in a pretty low spot. I was questioning everything, started asking, hey, what do you really believe versus what was programmed? And I went through this really, really deep reflection and recalibration of what was important and how I was going to operate going forward. And as my success grew, that became really important because it allowed me to make decisions pretty quickly.
Right.
It's amazing how success grows when you have that foundation built, isn't it?
Clarity is all the difference, right? I mean, if you know where your compass is, you're able to make decisions at a really quick pace without a whole lot of struggle or even consideration. And then, for me, one of the big things I realized was, hey, I'm not doing anything for money anymore. Everything that I do is based on, is this the right thing to do or is this the wrong thing to do?
Awesome.
From there, we just move forward. And so, and that became prevalent in 2012 when I finally left the power company. So I'm an engineer by training. Went to North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, played football for 4 years there, but just had an amazing experience. Got out of school, started in corporate America, and was doing structural engineering at a power company. Got the opportunity to leave and go work at a consulting firm. And within 5 months of being there, my supervisor said, hey, I see you charge an admin budget instead of charging a client this week. What's up? I said, my project ended and I didn't have a new project to build to, so I built the company. And he said, well, next time you're either going to take vacation or you're going to build a client. And I said,
wow,
well, I don't own the company, so that's not what's going to happen. And I've only been there a few months. So, and I've been 100% billable the whole time. But in the end, it was like, okay, well, if that's the way that you guys operate here, then I don't want to be here. And so I returned the $10,000 signing bonus and moved on to a new company.
Wow.
And so at that point, I realized, hey, like, you're not just saying that you're not doing stuff for money, but you're actually living that out.
Right.
And so that's been able to take me to a whole lot of other places. I mean, I have people, one person in particular out of Minneapolis, like, he's wired money for a project. We don't have any paperwork in place. We've only seen each other once. And I mean, I'm not talking like $500. I'm talking about tens of thousands of dollars. And he just trusts me with that. And I don't take that kind of stuff lightly. in the same breath, I mean, if I didn't live with that kind of intense moral compass, then I don't think anybody would be comfortable doing that, especially in the world. Because there is no recourse from a wire, right? Once the money's there, it's there. You can't really do a whole lot. So it's really cool. And, you know, I don't advise anybody to do that. I just know that, hey, this guy's pretty comfortable with me. And, you know, that's the basis of all my relationships. Integrity and fortitude are kind of the basis for everything I do. And the one thing that, you know, I really liked about Wendy when we got to chat and even before was just seeing the authenticity of the way that, you know, she moves and the way that she shares her story. And there's no confusion about, you know, what is most important to her, why she's doing what she's doing, and if she's going to do what she says. And I mean, every promise that she's made to me, she's kept. And I can't say that for most people that are in the investment space. I think there's a lot of head nodding and smiling and shaking and making people feel good. And then when it comes time for the rubber to actually meet the road, they don't follow through. And that's all good until it comes to money, right? Because if the money hits and you don't do what you say you're going to do, there's not a whole lot of recourse other than court. And, you know, nobody really wants to be in court. And so I've been on an intentional path to find more people like Wendy to come into my world and help me live in a space where, you know, there's mutually beneficial relationships.
Awesome. Thank you. You know, I truly believe, and I say this all the time, and I know my brother and Jonathan feel the same way, is that if that's who you are, you will attract people like that to you. Mm-hmm. And, you know, because, you know, God just puts those people in front of you. And we've been very blessed with all the people that we do work with. So tell me about you and what you're doing. So you left the engineering company.
Yeah.
So then what? Then where did you go? What did you do?
There's a whole lot in between there, leaving college and getting to this place. I think the only thing that's really important to mention is after I left that firm, I went to another consulting firm. And from there, I got the opportunity to work at a construction company. And it was the first time that we did engineer, procure, and construct at that company. I was employee number 2 in the division. We billed $0 on January 13th. By the end of that year, we billed our client $20 million. We built a team of about 175 people. I had P&L responsibility, tip of the spear, with very little oversight from my leadership. I had 3 or 4 different supervisors over the course of the year. Nobody lived in the state that we were in. And so it was up to me and the folks that were on the leadership team kind of directly reporting to me, or not kind of directly reporting to me, to deliver a quality product to the client. And, you know, not only was it $20 million, but it was, you know, 30% profit. And so the one thing that we're able to do, or really confirm from my perspective, is that you could do good while doing well, right? Mm-hmm. And so we were doing great work in the community. We were able to make a pretty strong profit for the company. And, you know, for me, I was like, okay, this works. We can do this. The thing that sucked was in January, after that first year, I had to lay off half the staff. So from 175 down to something less than 100. And I remember arguing with my supervisor on December 24th at like 5 o'clock. I was like, what are we doing? Why would we do this?
Right.
Plenty of money. And I mean, I had a P&L, right? So I knew what we were making. And they were like, well, And he said, look, Jerome, I'm getting ready to get off the phone. You needed to pick who you want to continue with you, because you still have to deliver the result. And I realized then that, hey, there's a few things wrong with this picture. One, I'm doing all the work, but I don't have the end say. I hated that. 2, I'm being told to lay people off who have kind of laid it all out on the line. I mean, there's one lady in the team whose husband was at the naval base and he was a submarine person. They were supposed to go to the next base. And she said, hey, honey, I want to stay behind. I want to keep working on my career. I really see something here. And that was a testament to not only the project, but the leadership of the project. And so I think people quit bosses, right? I don't think they actually quit the job. They quit the people that they're working with.
That's well said.
So I was working really hard to be a strong leader. So, you know, we fast forward through that. And then I said, well, I don't ever want to do this again. November comes and, hey, the day before Thanksgiving break, do not go shopping on Black Friday because we don't know what's going to happen after the break. And I'm like, I don't want to tell people that, but that's what we had to do. That was the message we had to deliver. And, at that point, I decided I was going to be a corporate America dropout. I dropped out at the end of the year and went into real estate. And I thought I was going to go buy an apartment. Went to 10 different banks, said, hey, I'm here. And they kind of looked at me and said, I got a deal. They kind of looked at me and said, well, I just built a $20 million business. They're like, yeah, okay, that's nice. I got an MBA. Yeah, so what? Got an engineering degree. Yeah, we don't care. I was like, well, how do I get money to do this deal? And he's like, well, you need experience. And I said, well, what about all the stuff I just told you? I got all these credentials, right? And you guys should be willing to lend with me. I'm pretty smart. And you're like, yeah, no. And so I went and started fixing and flipping houses until I could find somebody to partner with me to do my first deal. And, 4 or 5 months, I was fixing and flipping houses. I was sitting on the porch of one of them. And a guy drove up. He was like, hey, man, let me see the finishes. We're getting ready to do one down the street. I said, okay. And so we started talking. He's like, hey, do you know anything about that 23-unit building down in Churchill? I was like, yeah, I tried to buy that about 4 or 5 months ago. And he said, well, I'm going to make an offer on it today. I was like, please don't leave me out. Like, you're the guy. He said, well, how much money are you going to bring? I said, I don't know. We'll figure something out, but don't leave me out of the deal. Like, I really want to do this. And of course, he went and made an offer. He didn't need me, right? And he didn't get it. And so he went and talked to one of the guys that had been investing for a long time that I knew. And he said, oh, yeah, that's the one Jerome was talking about. I'm not doing it if he doesn't do it. And so they brought me in for project management. He was coming in as a general contractor. The other guy had the experience and the balance sheet. And then the broker was coming in that brought the deal. And I was like, okay, it's a band of 4. It was like, what's missing? Property management. So we brought a property management partner in as our 5th partner. And so the 5 of us went in and did the deal. We bought it for 1.27. And I mean, we did everything. We redid the roofs. We went to zero. We didn't think we were going to go to zero. And when I say we go to zero, everybody got evicted or we didn't renew their lease. So we've got this $1 million loan with no income. And we're doing a rehab, baby. Roof, siding, landscaping, parking lot, taking out walls, appliances, granite, flooring, paint. And I'm like, wow. All right. This was more than what we wanted it to be. And so long story short, we bought that thing. Average rents were like $695 or so, right? And now we're getting $1195 at that property.
Wow.
Huge value add opportunity. It took us way longer than I wanted it to. We didn't get permits before we closed. Like, there's so many things that we learned in going through that process. And the big thing for me was I got the box checked, right? I had experience now.
Yeah.
Like when I got my engineering license, like I didn't know any more the day after I got my engineering license than the day before. But because I had that license, now it's worth $10,000 or $15,000 more a year to the company.
I love it.
I mean, that's the game.
You're talking about something that's really, really important. And you're bringing up the due diligence part that you did on this 23 unit. I think a lot of people that are going to buy apartments think that it's just like buying a house. It's not just like buying a house. There's a lot more due diligence that needs to be done. And if you do it, you can make a whole lot more money and do better than just buying a house. Talk about some of the due diligence that you kind of skipped over and realized, ooh, I need to do this next time. Talk a little bit about that.
So, let's fast forward through the pain, right? Everybody wants to skip over to the good part. We went into this deal. So we went under contract in June on this one. We didn't close till November. And that was because we were doing due diligence and we had questions and we were trying to get things ironed out. When you're buying from a mom and pop operator, a lot of times what you'll see is their books aren't clean. And the major difference, in my opinion, between buying single family homes and buying apartments is when you buy an apartment, you're buying a business. And so when I describe myself as a person who buys broken apartment building businesses and fixes them, right? Because the bank likes apartments because they have a hard asset to lend against.
Right.
And then what we like about it is, hey, the value of the property is determined based on the profitability. So if we can drive income or reduce expenses, then we can create more value in theory. And so the actual work to doing that is what a lot of people don't really get. There's a ton of focus in the market and the industry on buying. How do you buy it? How do you buy it? You think about the life cycle of the project. You might spend 6 months in due diligence or in the process of buying the property. You're going to spend at least 60 months in owning the property, right? And so just applying against either one of those thoughts, you want to make sure that you know how to operate, and you want to make sure you have the right partners that's going to get you through it. Due diligence wise, the books are what's super important, right? So you want to be able to go through the profit and loss statement from the owner and see, hey, what's wrong with the expenses? And there's rules of thumbs where you can look at, hey, income should be this as a percentage of income, your expenses should be that. And if that makes sense, then the apartment isn't broken, so I won't buy it, right? But if the percentages are off and I can go through the profit and loss statement and find a line item that I think we can reduce or eliminate, then I'm cooking. I got something that I can go through and actually fix.
Right.
This concept of, hey, we're just going to go in, shine it up, make it pretty, and put it back on the market, which is what most people do with fix and flip, doesn't actually exist in the apartment business. You can renovate a unit, but that doesn't mean that there's opportunity to rent it for more.
Right.
Location may just not warrant a higher rent. And so if you can go find, just like finding comps for a single family home, if you can go find comps that show that, hey, this type of unit or this look of a unit rents for this, then you probably have an opportunity to make that adjustment. And I think that's probably the biggest misnomer. What I will say is those months that I spent fixing and flipping, and I continue to do it after I got into multifamily, but when I was fixing and flipping, being able to estimate what it's going to cost to actually execute is an extremely valuable skill.
Yes. Yes.
And you guys get this, but just for the listeners, it doesn't matter what the quote says from the contractor, right? At the end of the day, if they can't perform for that, you're still getting a bill.
That's right.
Right? You're still getting a bill. And so their number is nice, but you need to make sure that your numbers are what it's actually going to be. And to add insult to injury, you want to talk about mistakes, right? So on that first deal, we underestimated how much HVAC was going to cost.
Oh, wow.
So, if you're off $2,000 on a single family home, whoop-de-doo if your budget's $20,000, right?
Right.
When you have 23 units and you're off by $2,000.
Ouch.
Right? I mean, the math, when you start multiplying by other things, it just changes dramatically. And so for me, being precise about your budgets and being tight on the construction management piece is essential when you're doing these value adds. And then, the other thing that's kind of hard for people to grasp is, hey, I'm going to spend $5,000 to renovate this unit in order to get an extra $100 a month. And like, why would
Doesn't make sense, doesn't?
But when you slap a capitalization rate on that, and then you start looking at, what does that increase my value?
It does, right? Yeah. And so that piece, and here's the other thing that I think a lot of people miss is, all right, so we got a cap rate as the owners. There's also a property management fee for the people that are running your property. Say the cap rate, let's just use the same number, right? So a 10 cap and a 10% fee for your property manager, even though it probably should be less than that if you got anything of size. When you say that extra $100, that turns, I don't want to do all the math, but so $100 a month. Let me get my calculator. I ain't that good.
You got it right here, 1,200, and you slap a 10 cap on it.
Yep. 1,200.
That's 12 grand in value that you added right there.
The thing I will argue a little bit on that. And so you got to take out your expenses, right? Because $100 in income doesn't translate into $100 into your pocket.
Yeah.
There's always going to be some additional expense. Minor thing, but still a piece of it. So let's say we increase the value by $7,200. So that's how we figure out our break even on whether or not we can do the rental or not, and whether it makes sense. And then we got some other factors that say, hey, we should be able to do this or that, whatever the case is. So that's $7,200 in value. If you take that same thing back and then you think about what a property manager gets for that extra $100 a month, and at that 10%, they get an extra $120 a year for raising your rent on that unit $100.
Wow.
So what's their incentive to go above and beyond for that little bit on the bottom line if they're getting the 10%?
Right.
People like me who negotiate down, they're getting less than that. And so, it's just like, how do you make sure that everybody's interests are aligned? And, from a pure dollar standpoint, it's not exciting for them. But as a percentage basis, if they grow wealth, if they grow your income, then they get pay raises. And that's kind of the conversation we have a lot.
Right.
And so I don't know that I'm giving you a precise answer on the due diligence question.
Oh, that's good. That's good stuff.
Well, let me ask this question. Did you find in this project that even through your due diligence process and when you got involved into the rehabilitation of the property, that it wasn't one project, it was 23 different projects? Because I think a lot of people who move from single family to multifamily, like, oh yeah, economies of scale, we're gonna scale up and it's gonna be so great. And
It's
they
just
don't
one roof.
Yeah, they don't realize that, you walk through a couple properties or a couple units rather, and it's like, okay, I know what I'm going to do, but each unit is its own project. Did you experience that, or
yeah? And I think we further complicated than what a lot of people do. For the folks that are doing stuff in 150 and up range, they do the same thing in every unit, regardless.
Right.
They don't care if the cabinets are good. They're pulling them out and putting the new ones in.
Right.
We're more nuanced in that, and we call it rehab smart. I don't know if it's smart or not, but the cabinets are good. The cabinets are staying. I mean, you apply the single family methodology to it. If I don't have to touch it, I'm not going to touch it.
Right.
But if I do, then I will. And the thought is the back end will pay dividends. Yeah, it is one roof, but the roof costs $40,000 now instead of $5,000.
That's right.
And that is what a lot of people miss. It is every door that you go in is a different project because every unit's in different condition.
Right.
Yep.
I like the other thing you brought up too. You were talking about the operation, how well the business itself was run.
Mm-hmm.
I know we did a loan for an apartment complex where when they were going over the books, they found that the mom and pop owners were putting, their car insurance through everything and their vehicle costs and just
paying for everyone's cable.
Yeah. Everything that the family had was going through the books, and so it made the expenses look a lot higher than they really were, which is why they had trouble selling it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that part's okay. I mean, it's okay for them to do that. You just have to be able to isolate it.
That's
but just know that you're not going to get that gain either, right? Like personal expenses, and it's really more prone to happen when a person owns it, like just a husband and wife, or a husband, wife, and son. Like when we get into those arrangements, you'll not only see like one property and their personal expenses, but they may have a single family home over here, a duplex over there, and this 20 unit all going through the same bank account,
right?
And all owned in the same LLC. And it's like, now what? And the other thing that I've seen that is probably drove me most crazy is when they just put the income in from the houses, but don't put any of the expenses in.
Right.
They just put the income in. You're like, what are you doing? So they want the income to look higher, so they get the spread, and it's like, oh yeah, it's worth more. You got more net operating income. Like, no, we don't. Where did that number come from? And show me in the bank statement. And that's one thing we do. A lot of people don't do. We ask for bank statements, right? Because this shouldn't be your personal bank account. It should be something for the business. And we want you to prove that the money that you say you're making, because I can make the spreadsheet say whatever I wanted to say.
Right. Right.
So I just want a third party verification, and most people probably don't tell Uncle Sam everything that they're reporting. So I ask for the bank statement to make sure that, the money that's going in the bank actually lines up with what they're saying they're collecting.
Yeah. And
so when you're talking about raising the value of a property, you've got, you're either going to lower expenses, you're going to increase revenue, or a combination of the two. Not all expenses that you're lowering actually qualify. And we do this in the single family all the time. Just because your brother-in-law is going to do it for this price doesn't mean the next owner is going to have a brother-in-law that's going to do it for that price. So that reduction in expenses isn't going to fly. Right? If you do some sort of a capital improvement that is going to save water or save on sprinkler systems or something like that. If you had a cistern put in and you're responsible for the upkeep and the maintenance of the garden, and you had a cistern put in, and now your water expenses are a whole lot lower. Yes, that is an improvement that's going to lower expenses over time.
Right.
And that's actually going to add value to the property. But just because you're, somebody in the family knows how to work on stuff.
Well, and then what are the
gonna help.
other profit centers too? Do you have an oversized parking lot where you can rent some of the spaces for, RV parking and things like that? Does it have a washer dryer in there? Are you going to put coin op in there? And we did one that had a basketball court that was kind of falling apart, and they had to decide, were they going to even mess with fixing that back up? Is it really a value? Is it going to rent your apartments quicker? Is it going to, is it worth it? No, tear it out, put a picnic table on it.
You're better off putting a pet walk or something.
Yeah, that's true.
People can have their pets poop in the right place.
Yeah, not in the apartment, hopefully.
That happens, unfortunately. But creating value. I think the one thing that people get most confused on is, hey, I'm going to get into property management. I'm in management myself to save money.
Whee!
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Just hand them a noose right then. Go ahead and jump.
Yeah, because who wants that phone call? For me, part of the back to the red pill thing is freedom, right?
Right.
You got to be in a certain place. For me, it was decoupling time from money, right? If I got to be at a certain place at a certain time every day, then I don't have the flexibility to go do what I want to do.
Right.
We collected quite a bit of rent in the month of February, and I didn't have anything to do with that. We also paid a lot of bills. I didn't have anything to do with that. Like, all of that took place without me actually touching it. Now, did I talk to the property manager? Did we have calls? Did we talk about strategy? Yeah. But I can do that from anywhere, and I can review reports from my laptop. So now, I get that time freedom and the ability, and also location freedom. And so now I can, create a life and design my work around my life versus my life being designed around my work.
Right.
Sure. And that's the difference between active income and passive income.
Right.
Do you want another job? I mean, that's what you're doing for
Right.
yourself. If you want to manage it yourself, all you're doing is changing one job for another.
Right. And I just want to remind our viewers that we have Jerome Myers here with us today. And if you have any questions, you can just go ahead and post those questions right online, and we can see them live and answer them at any time.
Yes.
So let's talk about your coaching, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And your event that you do. We want to hear about that.
So we have the Mid-Atlantic Multifamily Investing Conference coming up July 30th or 31st through August 2nd.
It should be past the coronavirus.
We gotta be past the coronavirus. It was supposed to happen tomorrow, and we've decided to be obedient to what the governor and the president have said we should do, of having gatherings of big groups. But we're going to do that again, July 31st through August 2nd. And I'm bringing people from all over the country in to talk about multifamily, a bunch of different topics. One of the most important things for us is mindset. You are going to be entrepreneur in this space. Back to, we buy broken building businesses, right?
Right.
It's a business. And so if you're not ready to be entrepreneur and get punched in the face and all the things that come with the struggles of owning your own business, you're not going to be successful in the space. And so got one guy coming in from Pennsylvania, outside of Philly area. Him and his dad just did a $50 million deal. The two of them. They bought 800 doors in Harrisburg, PA.
Wow.
They went through and they've renovated them. And that happened in last July, and they're coming to the tail end of their renovation. That all started from refinancing a apartment they bought 20 years ago, pulling out the equity and using a portion of that for the down payment, and then bringing some of their own cash to the deal. For me, that's absolutely amazing. I can't fathom buying $50 million of real estate today.
Right.
Transaction, but it's just really cool. And there's such a small group of people that can do that. So he's going to come in and talk about that. I've got friends that have invested in deals with me and learned about the business. And we've got some success stories of people who've been through our program and picked up some deals here or there, and why they moved out of the residential loans and into the commercial loans. as far as the coaching, or I don't really call it coaching. So we've got a virtual course. It's 11 weeks. It walks you through the Myers methods of multifamily investing. And I didn't come up with that. My buddy, Dr. James Bryant, came up with that when we first got into the business. Because, after we did that first deal, I came to Greensboro, North Carolina, and I've invested exclusively in this market. And we've come up with our own process for vetting deals. And so it's a 4-step process. We find the deals, we fund them, we fix them, and we flip them. I'll talk about flipping them because, you guys lend money, right? With flipping, it is either a refi where we get to burr it, right? We get to refinance it, pull our initial capital out, and then keep it and enjoy the cash flow with an infinity return. Or if the market says that we should do it, we'll sell it to somebody who wants something that's turnkey instead of a project like what we had to work through in order to, increase the value. But they want something, we can just come in and starts cash flowing from day one. They get to enjoy the benefits. The one thing that I'll go back to the beginning of the process on finding it, there's a whole lot of people who think they have deals and they have leads.
Right.
All the same letters. Right? All the same letters, but they are leads. And so, we help people figure out what the difference is between the lead and the deal.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
I like that.
I've been in this business 30 years. And that's the first time I've heard that. That's an awesome catchphrase.
Takes us a college engineer to tell us about that. It's awesome.
That's what we get for not having a good education.
That's right.
Yeah. So on the website, and I'm gonna do one of Bill's things on wherever the website is, right? On MyersMethods.com, like you can come through and just learn a little bit about me.
Here right now.
Maybe later.
So on MyersMethods.com, you can just learn a little bit more about me and my journey, right? And then we go through, there it is. You can learn more about me and my journey. And then there's opportunity if you want to join our closed Facebook group. You can meet other people that are, accredited investors. And it might not be important to you today, but the people with the balance sheets are going to be really important when it's time to go get financing.
Absolutely.
And
so should a brand new person that's just trying to start out, should that person show up too?
They should, if they want to start learning, right? Because here's one of the things I've learned in the past 3 months, and it took me a really long time to figure this out. There's 4 things that keep people out of multifamily investing. And it's the first time I'm doing it live, so hopefully I don't forget. The foundation is knowledge, right? And so think about a pyramid. On the bottom is knowledge. If you don't know the difference between a lead and a deal, you don't know what you're doing. And so there's no reason to even start going down the path. And so why we did the virtual course, which is 11 weeks, is to help people with the knowledge piece. After knowledge, you want to be able to go through and get some deal flow, right? That way you can apply that knowledge against the deal flow and see whether or not you have a deal or a lead. Once you know if you have a deal or a lead, you need the experience so that you can go get your partners, right? And the biggest partner is going to be the bank or the hard money lender. And they're going to want to know that somebody has experience doing what you plan to do on something of similar size.
Right.
And if you haven't been in the business, and this goes all the way back to being in college, my buddy Duran and I were sitting on a stoop. We started doing math. That's what engineering students do in their free time, right? They do math. So we're sitting there and I pay $395. My 2 roommates pay $395. You pay $395. Your roommates pay $395. There's X amount of units here. This guy's making $700,000 a year top line. That's a lot of money to us right then. You're like, okay, so how does we've never talked to him. We've never seen him. He's got third-party property management in place. This is brilliant. I want to do that. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
But we didn't know anybody. And so 15 years later, I'm still trying to get to that place, right? I'm dropping out of corporate America, think I'm going to walk into apartments. You don't have experience. And I don't even know who to call to say, hey, you want to be my partner? Right. And I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have any of those things, right? And so we've created this community where people can come into the space. And then I think the last thing is capital. I think a lot of people get things out of order, though. And for me, that order is really important. Knowledge, deal flow, experience, capital. You don't need any capital if you don't have experience, because the capital that it takes for the down payment doesn't matter.
That's
because
right.
you're not going to get the big lump, right?
That's
If you don't have any experience, or if you don't have any deal flow, it doesn't matter how much experience you have, because you don't have a deal to apply it against.
That's
And then
right.
if you don't have any knowledge, you can't apply it against your deal flow. So you don't even need deal flow. And so foundationally, we want to teach people how to buy apartments and to go through the process. And so it's a deep dive. It's 25 hours of me lecturing. There's probably another 15 to 20 hours of homework where people can go get other resources, because I don't think I have all the answers. But what happened for me is, over the course of however long I've been doing this now, 4 or 5 years, I listen to 40 hours of content a week.
Right.
And so I was just consuming and consuming. And what happened is, in the beginning, I got really confused. Like, one person would say this, another person would say that. And it was like, I don't know which one's right. And so I combined all the stuff that I heard with the experiences that I was having in the space. And we've basically curated content that's continuous and cohesive.
Right.
People to come through, and that will speed up your learning curve. I've probably stunted my growth by 2 or 3 years by trying to do it myself.
Right.
And I didn't do that out of arrogance. I just didn't know any better.
Right.
Right? They're just like, okay, well, there's 15 different multifamily investing podcasts. I'm going to listen to all 15 episodes every week. And then I'm going to go on YouTube and find some other videos. And then I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to open this book. And I'm like, I didn't need all that.
Yeah. Community, it's important in everything we do. Community is, in my opinion, is number one in everything we do. I've been leading a subgroup for investors for 17 years now. And we meet every Friday morning. And in fact, we're going to do this live video every Friday morning until we can meet again. In fact, we might just continue it. But I can't, that's the first thing I say to people when they call me for a loan. What community are you involved in that has to do with real estate investing? Because we learn from each other.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep. Lastly, and I don't want to keep you, I appreciate that you've taken this much time.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
really
thank you.
appreciate it. It's been great.
One more time, let's get your website up that people can contact you about the event coming up.
Yeah.
And there it is, myersmethods.com.
Yeah.
And that's with an S, Myers Methods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
There's
he has
more than
more
one.
than
Plural. That's awesome.
It's funny you say you kind of figured you had to do it all on your own. That's part of your engineering mentality.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that are engineers, dentists, folks that are very analytical, and they have to get every detail in place before they make a move.
Yeah.
Sometimes
that's not us.
And what you're talking about, you have to go through and learn and get some of the bumps and bruises. You're not going to get it all and then go do it. You have to get most of it and then go do it, because you're going to continue to learn the whole time.
Well, and then think about the story you tell. I mean, no one likes to hear the story where someone says, I did this and it worked out 100% every time for me, every step of the way. No one likes hearing that story. We like hearing
the truth.
Yeah, it was a struggle.
It's not easy.
There was hardships. There was all these things, these stumbling blocks that came along, and your story was great. And I love it.
Very inspiring.
Excellent. Jerome, thank you so much again. I appreciate you coming on. Folks, if you have any question about attending one of Jerome's events, there's the website.
Or his course. You can learn about his course there too.
His virtual course. And at the same time, if you have any questions for us, it's carolinahardmoney.com. We also want you to like, share, and
thumbs
forward,
up.
and appreciate all the comments.
Yeah.
Even the bad ones.
Yeah.
So,
Not
anyway,
really, but we'll take those too.
Till we see you again, which will be soon in about 20 minutes.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Everybody take care.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.